If you're a high performer, you know the struggle, right? You need to be totally sharp, completely focused. But all that stress and anxiety that comes with the territory, it just gets in the way. It's this constant, exhausting balancing act. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into a really interesting potential solution.
I mean, think about it. You've got a crazy workload, a deadline that feels impossible, or maybe a huge presentation coming up. You know you need to bring your A game, but that internal noise, that feeling of just being completely overwhelmed, it can sabotage everything. So what are you supposed to do?
Well, for the longest time, the choice has been, frankly, pretty awful. On one hand, you've got stimulants. Sure, they give you focus, but you pay for it with jitters, anxiety, and eventual burnout. Then on the other side, you have anxiolytics. They bring the calm, but they can also bring brain fog and sedation. You're basically forced to trade your clarity for calm or your calm for clarity. It's a total performance paradox.
But what if you didn't have to make that trade-off? What if there was another way? And that's where our topic for today comes into the picture. So let's meet Selank, an approach that's all about delivering calm clarity.
So what is this stuff? Put simply, Selank is a synthetic peptide. You can just think of it as a small, super-targeted little protein. It was actually modeled after something our own bodies make, an immune peptide called tuftsin, and it was designed for one specific reason: to break that old paradox. The whole goal is to give you mental clarity with a sense of calm so you can perform at your best, but without all that crushing pressure.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Selank isn't just another stimulant, and it's not just another calming agent. It really represents a third path forward. The ability to have that sharp, dialed-in focus, but while standing on a solid foundation of emotional stability.
Okay, so that sounds great, but how on earth does it actually pull this off? Let's break down the science behind it. We're going to look at 3 core actions, and don't worry, I'll keep it super simple and clear.
So, Selank works in 3 main ways. First up, it balances the brain. It kind of dials up your natural calm-down circuit. That's the GABA system, but it does it gently without making you drowsy. It also helps stabilize things like serotonin and dopamine to give you a stronger feel-good baseline. Second, it enhances the mind. It actually improves how your brain cells talk to each other, which can lead to better memory and just cleaner thinking. And third, it protects the system. It acts like a buffer against stress, helping you stay clear-headed even when things get really demanding.
I absolutely love this analogy from the source material. Just imagine your mind as a radio that's full of static, competing thoughts, anxieties, a million distractions. Selank is described as the feeling of turning the dial and locking onto a perfectly clear signal. All those thoughts that were fighting for your attention, they stop competing and they just line up. It allows for way more efficient thinking and focus.
Now, the science is fascinating, for sure. But that brings us to the most important question of all. What does this actually feel like in the real world? So let's explore that experience.
Yeah, this is a big one, right? This is the question that really matters. It's great to know the how, but what's the what? Let's look at how people who've used it actually describe the feeling.
Time and time again, the experience seems to boil down to this one perfect phrase: clear-headed calmness. See, it's not a foggy, sleepy calm, and it's not a frantic, jittery clarity. It's the two together. It's being mentally sharp and emotionally steady at the exact same time, which, if you think about it, is an incredibly rare state to be in. And that leads to this incredible feeling: having mental peace and mental power simultaneously. That internal chatter, that constant background noise that just drains your energy, it finally gets quiet. And when that happens, you free up a massive amount of mental horsepower for deep, focused, productive work.
So ultimately, it's a transformation. It's not about adding something new on top of all the noise. It's about taking the noise away. As that anxiety starts to fade into the background, your own natural clarity gets to come forward. It frees you up. It doesn't dull you down.
So who finds this useful? Well, it's a really diverse group of people. You've got high-stress professionals who need to be cool under pressure. You have athletes who need that mental control to perform. Entrepreneurs juggling a million things without burning out. Even creatives who need to quiet their inner critic to find their flow. The common thread for all of them is the need for clean, stimulant-free productivity, getting things done without the jitters or the fog.
Okay, so for those of you who really want to dial things in and optimize, there's a fascinating synergy to talk about. See, Selank is really powerful on its own, but it's often paired with another peptide called Semax.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. You can think of them as two sides of the same coin, a perfect tag team. Semax is like the gas pedal. It brings the motivation, the cognitive drive, that sharp focus. And Selank, as we've been talking about, provides the sophisticated steering and braking system. The calm, the emotional balance, the stress control. They don't overlap. They just complement each other beautifully.
And this simple equation is really the key takeaway here. When you combine the drive from Semax with the stability from Selank, what you get is mental sharpness without the mental tension. And that is a very, very powerful state to be in.
And we'll end on this really powerful thought from our source material. The ultimate goal here isn't just about being more productive. It's about clearing away all that internal noise, the stress, the anxiety, the 1,000 competing thoughts, so that your best, most focused, most creative self finally has the space to emerge. So, what could you achieve if your mind was finally quiet enough to be heard?